Well, hey guys, good evening and welcome to Inspiration of Your Life. I'm glad you decided to join in with me this evening. Whether you are coming here the very first time, I want to say thank you and I want to say welcome. If you've been here one time, 100 times, or many other times, I want to say thank you, but I also want to say the words welcome back. It's always great to have people that appreciate the quality and content of my show. All right, guys, if you're thirsty or hungry, feel free to go grab yourself like an RO water like I have here, or maybe another delicious beverage or snack or whatever have you. Whether it's healthy or not, that's totally up to you. And we'll kick this off. If you have not checked out BelieveMeAchieve.com, do that after the show is over because there's lots of great information there for you. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Inspirations for Your Life show. And we're talking about something pretty interesting this week. You know what that is? We're talking about something that I think a lot of people would not, they wouldn't really spend time to think about it. And this is pretty good. How our focus shapes daily performance. Series 5, Show 21. By the way, this is episode number 3. It is a wonderful Monday evening. I am your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, passionate lifelong learner, and now, guys, a published author, which I'm very grateful for. Just finished working on my keynote a little while ago and going to be giving out for the very first time on the 26th next week. And I'm very excited to be sharing a very monumental, important part of my life and how it changed my life. So, guys, how focus shapes daily performance is key. This episode of Inspirations for Your Life explores how attention directly shapes energy, execution, and real-world performance. When focus is stable, everything becomes easier to manage, from thinking to decision-making to output. When attention is scattered, even simple tasks feel heavier, harder, slower, and less controlled. Today, I'm breaking down how attention drives energy and how energy determines consistency in everything you do. And this is a secret to many people, but it should not be a secret, okay? So again, welcome everyone to the show. If I haven't welcomed you enough, we are not talking about motivation and we are not talking about theory. We're looking at real performance behavior in daily lives. The core idea is really simple. Your attention is not just a mental tool. It is the control system behind your energy, your clarity, and your execution speed. Where attention goes, guys, performance follows. So wherever our attention goes, okay, wherever our thoughts go, that's where the energy is going to go, okay? So let's break this down together and make this even easier to understand because it's not really hard once you dive into it, all right? So energy and focus connection. Energy always follows attention direction, okay? Wherever our thoughts are going, that's where the energy is going to flow. And when focus shifts, guys, energy output shifts with it, okay? It shifts with it. This determines how strong or weak your performance feels throughout the day. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize they have the power to change, but they really do. Number 2, guys, focus preserves mental stamina. Stable attention reduces unnecessary mental burning and keeps you operating longer with less fatigue. And I think a lot of times in life, people get burned out because, well, you probably want to read my book, but because they're just going through the motions and they're not really being intentional of things. Number 3, switching drains cognitive fuel. Every shift in attention requires the brain to reset, which uses more energy than most people realize. So keep working on one task till it's finished and then switch. Number 4, deep work restores clarity. When attention stays locked, thinking becomes cleaner and more structured. Number 5, fragmentation increases fatigue. Just like on a hard disk of your computer, when you have files fragmented, it's harder and slower for them to be accessed, thus using more energy and resources. So scattered focus creates invisible exhaustion that builds throughout the day, just like the hard drive seek function, right? Number 6, stable focus reduces stress. When the mind is not constantly switching, internal pressure naturally it just decreases. Okay. Number 7, guys, attention controls endurance. Your ability to keep going is directly tied to how steady your focus is. I'll give you a perfect example. I was taking a walk with the guys a few days ago. And, sometimes when you're walking and you're focusing on just the walk, you can actually get tired. When your mind is not on the walk seems easier. Number 8, work feels lighter with clarity. When thinking is organized, effort feels reduced even if workload stays the same. Number 9, mental load becomes visible. Distraction hides how much cognitive strain you are actually under. I think that's a very important thing. Number 10, energy increases with focus. The more stable your attention, the more efficient your output becomes. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to realize because they're like, well, how can it be easier? How can that work? Because when there's less interruptions, guys, there's more things that can actually happen. And there's more that you have control of. And when we have control over something, well, we can, let's say, manage how much energy is being exerted. If you ever remember the old dimmer lights, right? And you turn the dimmer, well, you can control with the little potentiometer there of how much power you are letting flow to the light bulb or the fan or what have you. Number 11, guys, distraction increases exhaustion. The more you get distracted, the more exhausted you get. Not because you want to get that way, but it just sort of happens. And I think that's an important thing to note. Even small interruptions compound into major energy loss over time. I know today I was working on something and I was speaking with my parents. And I was like, I'll talk to you later. I've got to focus. I have a lot of stuff to do today. And again, just to let people know, you don't want to be interrupted in a nice way, because when that happens, it like messes your flow up and then you waste energy. Number 12, flow reduces effort. When focus stabilizes, work begins to feel more automatic when it stabilizes, and it feels less forced, right? More in the flow, more in the groove, right? We've talked about this before. Number 13, clarity improves pacing. Better focus allows you to move through tasks at a more natural and a controlled speed or pace. I think when we can understand those things and we can start to see those returns, like, wait a minute, this actually makes sense. I can actually do this, right? And it's not a question of, well, how do I do it? It's a question of, when do I start? Because once you start something, you're going to find that things are very easy once you start. But, you can't get anywhere until you start. You have to, put the key in or push the smart start button in your car before the car is ever going to go anywhere, right? I mean, that's just the truth. That's a fact. Number 14, guys, focus stabilizes output. Consistent attention produces consistent results across tasks and decisions. Tasks, decisions. So if we know what does something and we know how our input affects our output or other output, now we could be a little more mindful of how we're going to do it, what we're going to do. Are we going to change something? And I think that's probably a very, very important thing to note that that's even happening. All right. Number 15, guys, thinking becomes efficient. Less mental switching means more usable processing power for real work. Less mental switching means more mental power. So the key is don't switch. Get the task done and then switch. We switch back and forth. It's like a waste of time. Now, there is a time when you might need to switch because you're waiting for something to finish or to process. Then you do need to wait, just like the computer does, right? There is processing time, right? There's disk lag time. And while these things are happening, we go do something else, right? So remember, mental switching means more usable processing power for real work to be done. Number 16, Work becomes sustainable and you can maintain performance longer without hitting mental burnout quickly. When we know how to do something, when we understand a task, okay, or an operation we need to perform, we use less energy. It's almost like our brain does it without us even thinking because we know the way. Have you ever been in the car going to grandma's house, right? And let's say you're going to the same light, but suddenly it's in the middle of the week and you're supposed to go straight, but no, you make a turn to go to grandma's house. Like, wait a minute, the car is just programmed to go to grandma's house. Like it's just like in that nature for you. Number 17, attention regulates fatigue. The attention we have regulates fatigue. So, how tired you feel is often a reflection of how scattered your focus is at the given moment, guys. At the given moment. All right. At the given moment. It could change like that just because of your perception. Number 18, guys, energy becomes predictable. Stable focus creates a more consistent performance rhythm throughout the day. So, if we know that our performance can be, let's say, changed, then there's a lot that we can actually do. Okay. There's a lot that we can actually do. And this is something I think that a lot of people don't understand, that we control our destiny by our thoughts. I was talking to somebody on the phone just a little while ago, a friend of mine from out of state. And he was telling me, without getting into the personal nature, because that's confidential, he was telling me about something that happened because of something that happened in public. And he was in a state that he wasn't happy to be in, but he said some things. And I said to him, did you say anything specific about this thing and that thing that could link you to, or about anything specific about what you're working on? He says, no. I said, don't worry about it. The guy wasn't coming there to try to light a fire on you. He wasn't going to try to, come after you or the company you work for. But he was getting a little nervous because tomorrow, which is actually the 19th, by the way, actually my dad's birthday, uh, they have an auditor coming. And he was talking to an auditor. So, the brain started racing like, oh my gosh, like everything's going to go wrong. So what I told him is start thinking things are going to go right for you. And they will. Put the energy on things that are right and they will go right. But you've got to believe in that, folks. And you're going to say, well, John, I just did it, didn't work. Well, of course it's not going to work in 5 seconds, but I promise you it's going to get better. I'll give you guys an example. When I broke my tib and fib, this is not a whole story about that, but when I broke my tib and fib, the world seemed very challenging. It wasn't easy to get up. Couldn't do anything more than a sponge bath. And getting dressed took several hours. And just being able to get myself breakfast, even though that was a simple thing, but for me, it was a lot. And I didn't want to ask anybody for help because I wanted to be independent. But that was a mental drain on me. I would do what I have to do. And I'm like, oh, it's time to have dinner and get ready to go to bed. I was mentally and physically exhausted. What I do? Well, sometimes I'd go outside. I would, get in my wheelchair and I'd come back. And that was an exhausting process. I did it. Switching from the chair to the crutches or vice versa, that was even challenging. And I did this all myself without anybody helping me. Now, I don't tell you the story to have pity. I'm not asking you that. I'm telling you this because my awareness was key. But I didn't know this in the very beginning. Once I started to become very aware of the state I was in, I started to recover. Not just physically, but mentally. Now, my body was obviously physically recovering, but mentally was very important for me to recover. And that was one of those things where, you try to do something like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And you kept pushing yourself back. And I think that was a really big problem, guys. Big problem. But when I started understanding that I'm in the state and I can get better, but I first have to see myself getting better. I have to see myself walking. I have to see myself well. And it was challenging. But I knew that I'd be able to get through it. with the grace of God and Lord. I knew I could get through it. But during that time, I just knew that there was no way of rushing. You had to take things very slowly. Number 19, guys, mental recovery improves. It did for me. Focus work allows faster reset periods between tasks. When you know what you are doing, okay? I don't care whether it's mowing a lawn, whether it's assembling flowers, whether it's putting a desk together, whether it's reading, whether it's giving a presentation, a keynote, whether it's writing software, right? Doesn't matter what it is. When you understand it and you're in alignment with it and you're focused and you need a break, your reset happens quicker. So it's like the better nickel-cadmium batteries, that charge in a lot faster time than the other ones. Or what I like to explain it to now is, so I have my iPhone, right? And so something interesting about the iPhone that I never noticed before is I have this option. And I go into the settings option. I go to battery, okay? And in battery, I have something here that right now it says 100%. Now, that's great. That's wonderful. But what I was noticing, because I noticed, like, when I put it there, I'm like, why doesn't it charge so fast? And there's a reason. The USB-C extender that I have, powered USB extender, is only pushing out the slow charging. Now, that's a big difference between the fast charging. So we could be talking 3 hours versus maybe an hour. But it just never clicked with me because I didn't bother to check. Now that I became aware, okay, I know that I probably should change that, right? Or plug it into a wall. So awareness changes our perception, but it also gives us hope. Gives us hope to proceed. All right. Gives us the hope to proceed. Number 20, guys. Output becomes stable. Performance stops fluctuating when our output becomes stable. Performance stops fluctuating. Wildly, though, when the attention is controlled. So we're stable and the attention is controlled. If you ever thought about, let's say you've got this big container, okay? And this container has a top and you're pouring some liquid out of it, like a jug or something. And you're trying to pour that into a smaller container. Well, that takes a little bit of skill and work because if you got a big spout and you got a small thing, you don't have a funnel, you're probably going to be spending a lot of time to make sure that you don't drip, drab, whatever, or leak a lot of stuff. That happens so much, right? When you're trying to pour one bottle to another bottle, it's an effort to be focused, isn't it? Brings us to our next point, guys. Number 21, focus improves the endurance. You are able to stay engaged longer without losing mental strength when you are focused. When you're focused. If you're focused, guys, your world becomes more manageable. And I want to say in some breaths, it becomes easier. Some breaths, it becomes easier. So number 22, work feels balanced. How many of you out there know if your work feels balanced? If it doesn't, it's probably some area you should be taking a look at. Tasks stop feeling overwhelming when attention is properly directed. Now, I've learned that when I'm in alignment with my goals, my day flows, I have plenty of time to do other things, and I'm ahead of the game. And I think that's a very important thing. Number 23, guys. Our attention improves our efficiency. Our attention improves our efficiency. Our attention improves our efficiency. Less wasted mental movement leads to better results with less effort. So in other words, we're saying more efficient, less energy, right? What if you could pour 24 bottles, okay, into these small little carafe bottles, and you could do it without wasting a drop? Pretty cool. Now, the more you practice that skill, the more that you can closely fill these carafes without wasting any product, without having to clean up. The more you do it, not rushing it, just because of the skill and your precision and your awareness to how you hold the bottle, how you hold the container. Number 24, guys. Fatigue reduces naturally. When focus is stable, mental strain decreases without forcing recovery. No recovery is forced. None. Number 25, guys. Performance becomes smoother. Execution flows more naturally when attention is not constantly interrupted. Sometimes people don't understand that when you're in the middle of something and you get interrupted, you're not trying to be rude. You're just like, hey, I'm trying to focus. Well, I have a question. I get that you have a question. I get it. Okay. But it's important to understand that you've got to stay focused all the time. All the time, you need to stay focused. If you don't stay focused, you know what happens? You get frustrated. You make mistakes. You lose confidence. You lose confidence. When you lose confidence, you start slowing down. You realize that maybe you don't know how to do it. Number 26, guys. Energy stabilizes. Instead of spikes and crashes that we hear of, your output becomes more even, guys. More even. But this happens only when we're in alignment, only when our core values are connected with our goals, are connected with the intentional actions we're taking. Number 27, cognitive strain reduces. Mental pressure decreases when thinking is not fragmented. It's not fragmented. When it's not all over the place, right? When you try to access files in your computer and they're fragmented, it takes longer to access them than if they were not fragmented. Whether it's SSD or mechanical, doesn't matter. It's still some fragmentation, right? Number 28, guys. Focus improves resilience. You recover faster from interruptions and regain control more quickly when that happens. When that happens. Important, guys. Number 29. Output becomes steady again, and consistency increases when attention is not scattered across multiple directions. In other words, you're focused, you're in lane. You're not trying to play all the courts. I remember one time playing tennis. An instructor would say to me, John, which court are you playing on? I don't know. The ball went over there. We're over here. I know we're over here, but my ball went over there. Are you playing on that court? And you can go play on that court if you want, but we're on this court. It's funny because I went over there and played on that court. The ball went back on this court. So it was just one of those things. And I feel that when we put too much attention, too much stress on us that, hey, I hit the ball in the wrong tennis court. Okay, I did it. So next time I've got to change my position, change my standing, change the amount of effort I use when I make my serve or I hit my volley. Right? Change it. And that builds up a confidence level that, hey, I can hit the tennis ball. I can serve the tennis ball. Right? Builds confidence up. Our body's like, hey, I can do this. Number 30, guys. Balance improves performance. When our focus and energy align together, everything in execution becomes more predictable. And guys, it becomes more controlled. More controlled. So control is not meant to be something to hold you back, but it's something, think of it, to regulate you, right? Not trying to control anybody, but if we can regulate something, we can be better, right? Maybe you don't want to necessarily turn the water all the way up, but you want to regulate it so that it doesn't overflow. Maybe you don't want to turn the music off, but you want to regulate it so we save our hearing. We want to regulate it so I can hear what the heck they're singing. Maybe another part of control might be temperature. I don't want to turn it off, but I want to control how much cold air is coming in or how much hot air is coming in. That's how that works, guys. That's how that works. It's pretty straightforward. So here is the core takeaway from today. You are not losing energy because you're doing too much. Let me say that again. You're not losing energy because you're doing too much. I used to think that that was why I was losing energy. You are losing energy because your attention is doing too much switching. Your attention is doing too much switching. Stay on track. Finish a task. Then go to the next task. You're losing energy, ladies and gentlemen, because your attention is doing too much switching. And the thing is, you're doing it so much that you don't even know you're doing it. But you're wasting so much energy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when focus stabilizes, energy stabilizes. Let me say this again. When focus stabilizes, energy stabilizes. When energy stabilizes, performance becomes consistent. Focus stabilizes, energy stabilizes. Energy stabilizes, performance becomes more consistent. Pretty cool, right? But I think sometimes when people hear this, they think that it's not possible, but it absolutely is. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not about pushing ourselves to work harder. No. It is about directing attention more precisely in our own ecosystem so that we can harness our outputs and direct them to other inputs to give us a greater result, less time, more efficiently. Pretty cool, guys. I think if you just become aware of just something, that something is going to get better for you. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been Inspirations for Your Life. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Be sure to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. Take care, everyone, and stay aware.